prompted us to write music. We never intended for it to be released. It wasn't done for fame or fortune. We did it because of our love for music. That's what it was all about. That's why we did it. We just enjoyed it. We worked together, Will and I, during the day, and we would talk about what kind of music we wanted to record or new things we might want to try. And then at night, many nights, we would go to our little studio and just record. Sometimes it was crazy, silly stuff. Sometimes it wasn't. Sometimes, as time went on, we got a little more serious and tried to make good music. We just really enjoyed the creation of it all and shared it with just a few people. But this particular song took on a life of its own. It was different. This song, wow, it started at the Binion's Horseshoe Warehouse, an old rundown warehouse that the casino was using to store slot machines that they weren't using anymore. So it wasn't fancy, it wasn't fixed up. It was an old wooden warehouse covered with, cobwebs in areas and dusty, and we were working there every day, all day long. So Will had discovered an old piano on a pallet sitting in a corner. It was leaning over to one side and it was all dusty and dirty, and the keys were all broken, and some of them were even completely missing. And inside you could see that rats had eaten the felt on the hammers. It was in really bad shape. But we decided to make a song out of it. He wanted to use it to make a song. That's the kind of thing we like to do. So the next day we decided to bring in a boombox. Yeah, this was back in the day when boomboxes were still the thing. And we brought our boombox in and a blank tape, and we recorded some music with it. And he recorded the only thing that he could get it to do. There were very few keys that actually worked, and they sounded pretty bad. They clunked and made a lot of extra noise that pianos normally don't make. But he was able to lay down a really short, just a basic pattern of notes, like boom, 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 boom. And he just did that over and over again. And I recorded it. And neither one of us could play piano, but we did the best we could. So that night, we took that recording back to our studio. And the task before me was to lay some drums on it. And I'm going to tell you that was extremely difficult. We didn't really follow a tempo like I thought we did when we were recording it, so it was really ragged, and it's very, very difficult to put a drum track down with it. But I did. I worked on it for a while and did probably 40 or 50 takes. Finally got something almost usable. But again, we weren't trying to be serious, so we just, once I got it to an acceptable acceptable level, then we stopped and decided to move on. So then Will put some guitar on top of that, and we were happy with it. It was fun, and we wanted it to turn out kind of eerie and spooky, and we didn't really care if it was ragged. So we went ahead and recorded it. And then at the end of the night, Will was mixing the recording down. So I'm standing behind him. He's got headphones on. He's leaning over the mixing console, and he's getting it all mixed down. And all of a sudden, with no warning, he's got on headphones, so he's talking louder than normal. And all of a sudden, he's like, "Dude, you're not going to believe this. There's singing in this." And we hadn't recorded any singing. So I was shocked. I mean, seriously, I was shocked. I'm like, what? The hair on the back of my neck stood up. And I was like, what do you mean there's singing in it? You're going to have to explain yourself. What do you mean they're singing in it. So he took off his headphones, threw them on the desk, and put everything through the main speakers and played it back for me. And sure enough, you could hear some very distinct what sounded like human voices in there. Couldn't tell exactly what they were singing, but it was definitely going with the music. So we assumed it was harmonics, or something naturally caused by either the piano. It had a lot of low end roaring in it when we were recording it. So we thought, okay, that's got to be what it is. So we isolated each track individually and couldn't find anything that sounded even remotely like what we were hearing when the full mix was going. Still couldn't understand exactly what they said, but nevertheless, it was something there. So we finished up for the night, and we couldn't come up with a name for it. I think we had tried to call it like Nocturnal Dreams or something. I don't know. We had some crazy name for it. But the next day, we were back working at the warehouse. And it was a really big warehouse, so we were able to park the van that we worked out of inside, and I had the door open and the boombox was there. And Will was away in another part of the building working, and I'm just sitting there and I'm playing the recording that we made the night before. And without any warning whatsoever, all of a sudden I could hear just as clear as a bell what they were singing. So I yelled out for Will. I'm like, hey, come here, man, come here. So he did. He come running over and he's like, what? I'm like, I know what the name of the song is. He's like, what? You came up with something? I'm like, yeah. We Stand Alone. He's like, We Stand Alone? Where in the world did you get that? I'm like, because that's what they're singing. So I played it back for him. And sure enough, in the warehouse, we were able to hear what the words were. We stand alone. We're so alone, which gave me chills and still does. So that became the name of the song. So that's how it was born. So later on that night, I was at home by myself, and the story continues here. I decided to play along with that recording in my little studio at home. So I sat behind my drums and turned it on, and I played along with it, and tried to anyway. And that was fun. Then I decided I would try to play Will's guitar part. So now, mind you, I'm not a guitar player, and as a matter of fact, I'm horrible at playing guitar. But I figured I would give it a try anyway. I had nothing else to do, so I'm setting everything up and get my guitar out, set it on the stand, and grab a couple of my effect pedals and put them down. Then realized I didn't have any of the cords to connect everything together, so I spun around, grabbed a couple cords, and when I turned back around, there was a candle, one of those glass prayer candles, sitting between my pedals. Now my pedals were just a couple of inches apart. This candle sitting directly between them. I froze. I mean, tears streaming down my face. I just froze. I'm like, where did this come from? This is insane. I really didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. I was petrified. So I ran to the phone and I called Will and his wife, and I'm like, you're not going to believe this, man. And I told him what happened, and he's like, oh, you must have set it there, and forgot or something. And I'm like, really? I mean, seriously, think about that. A prayer candle. I don't even use prayer candles. Yeah, we had one in the house, I think, but it wasn't there. It wasn't right there between my pedals. I'm like, you don't just arbitrarily put a candle between your effects pedals for no reason and not remember it, unless you black out or something bizarre. So anyway, that was quite strange, but that's not where it ends. Later that night, when I decided it was time to go to bed, I'm laying there, and I had 3 dogs, small dogs at the time. They were laying on the bed with me, and my little sidekick Tuffy was laying kind of up next to my shoulder. And just about the time I was getting ready to doze off, he jumps up and alerts. He's got his hair kind of razored up on his back, which I'd never seen him do that before. And he had this really low growl, and he's staring at the bedroom door. I'm like, what is it? What is it, buddy? What do you hear? That's when I realized, too, that the other 2 dogs were still sound asleep. It was just him. And I sat up in bed, and I looked at the door, and I could hear some really heavy, distinct breathing coming from the hallway. And, of course, I was, again, in shock. And it only lasted for a minute, maybe, and then all of a sudden, Tuffy's hair went down. He laid back down on the bed and went back to sleep. And that was the end of it. That's where it all ended. So, you know, this song, it's not the greatest song in the world. It's not going to make a list of greatest hits. But the incident behind it was real. I mean, this is something that I can't explain it. It was real. So it may not be a #1 hit, but it's definitely something pretty damn special.